Hello and welcome to another episode of Breaking Mayberry, the podcast that's just as good as you, damn it! Just as good as you, even though Pa disowned me, even though he never said who I was. Just as good. Just like you. Got a right to this name. We got a right to the name Breaking Mayberry, and I have the right to the name Marty Schneider. I'm one of your hosts.
I'm your bastard son, Dan Ludwig. That's right. And I've come to get what's mine.
And with us today is the cute, brainy one who will be written out of the show 8 episodes in, Adam Teterus.
Hey, gentlemen, thanks for having me. If one of you is Heath, the bastard son, and Marty, who would you be?
I guess if Dan's Heath, then I'm Nick.
Are
right?
you Nick?
Yeah.
Whoa, hold on.
Well,
this is too much pressure. Does that mean that...
That means you got to be Jared.
I'm Jared?
I am amazed that you guys can tell these people apart.
Can I just put this into play? And we haven't even talked about the show that we're talking about, but I imagine that the title of this episode would indicate this. Can I just put into the suggestion box? I would like to be Victoria Barkley.
All right.
We would all like to be Victoria, Adam. It's an aspiration.
Silver Fox. I was into it. I know Audra is there for the gays. And I don't mean like the plural, but you know the patriarchal ZE gays.
But also a little bit there for the gays. With the
actually,
Y.
you know what, Audra? I hope all of them is there.
A little bit there for the camp.
Gays. Yeah, but Victoria was. I'm getting ahead of myself. Thank you
no,
very
no,
much
no.
for letting me be on the show again. Multiple times I've been on the show. It is my distinct privilege, and I have felt like every single time I've walked away from a recording session with both of you, I've made you want to end the show or consider not putting out what we recorded. So I'm happy to be here on my best behavior and to watch a show that my dad likes.
Adam, every time I'm with you, I feel like not putting out.
All right.
No, it's always fun to see Marty strain against your pure chaos energy to try to keep us within 3 tangents.
Everybody knows that I am known as the nicest joker.
Yeah.
For example,
the joker you want to bring home to mom.
For example, assholes, it's been 2 minutes, like 2 or 3 minutes, and if you're still listening, let me explain to you what's going on. We are in the middle of one of our mini-series, one of the 2 mini-series we have going on. This is another episode of Parental Control, a show where we bring people on and ask them to tell us about a show that either was their parents' favorite when their parents were young, was their parents' favorite when they were young, or is their parents' favorite show now. And so Adam Teterus, who I think is our first and maybe only 3-time guest.
Whoa, I'm the Steve Martin of this podcast.
Yeah, you're our only 3-peat here.
Yippee.
Adam has brought us The Big Valley.
Mm-hmm.
The Big Valley, a Western drama series that aired from 1965 to 1969 on ABC.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of seems like it was the precursor to Dynasty and Dallas, and I think probably ran alongside Gunsmoke, but kind of like all of those like Western dramas, and I guess now Yellowstone.
Yeah.
All of those like family Western dramas. This was kind of the precursor, the first one of those bad boys. So, Adam, why did you bring us The Big Valley?
Well, for the record, this was not my first pick. My first pick was the Osbournes. You know, my dad loved that growing up. My dad is Benjamin Button, and he watched a lot of the Osbournes, the reality TV with Ozzy and Sharon, and the other two. And I really wanted to watch the Osbournes. I thought it might mess with your timeline of like old shows because parents are old. So I didn't go with that one.
This is much more within our wheelhouse. I think we could have handled the Osbournes, maybe.
Well, so my next pick,
because we did just do episodes on Supernatural and Stargate SG-1, so that
okay, well that fits.
We could have made that fit.
Well, my second pick actually, my fallback would have been Man vs. Beast. My mom loved that growing up. I think that came out in 2007, and that was the one where the professional eater Kobayashi had a hot dog eating contest against a bear, a Kodiak bear.
What the fuck are you talking about, Adam?
Adam, what are you doing? You and I talked about this episode for weeks. Weeks. We had multiple conversations
Shut up, Marty.
about
Shut
this.
the fuck up.
Yeah.
And at no point in time did you bring either of these to my attention. What the fuck, Adam?
Well, hold on. Who have I been emailing about Man versus Beast?
Adam, is each episode Kobayashi trying to have an eating contest against a different animal?
No, you fool.
Okay.
It's the same animal every time. It's always him versus the bear.
No.
They just change out the food.
They
He really lost that raw salmon contest. Let me tell you, he lost that.
One of the episodes was a Navy SEAL in an obstacle course against a chimpanzee.
What the living
One
fuck?
of an episode was Kobayashi versus a bear in an eating competition, and I remember one of them was someone raced a giraffe, but I'm sure a very fast person tried to race a giraffe. And I know there were other episodes, and I'm telling you, my mom and dad, they grew up with it. They talk about it all the time. Their best years are behind them because Man vs. Beast is off the air. And Man vs. Beast came out in 2003.
Jesus Christ. So I'm going to imagine, based off of the premise, the animals probably had a 100% win ratio, right?
I am almost certain, and don't quote me here, that in every episode at the end off camera, every human being was killed by an animal. And don't quote me here.
R.I.P. Kobayashi.
Kobayashi must win the eating contest or he has to fight the bear.
Can I just part the veil? All of this is BS, of course, but I'm looking at the Man vs. Beast Wikipedia entry.
Of course, yeah.
And all of the competitions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 competitions are listed in the wiki. I'm not sure if this is comprehensive or just a piece. And all of the people are named, athletes are named, except for, and I quote, a group of 44 dwarves lost a race against an Asian elephant, and a sumo wrestler lost a tug of war. The sumo wrestler has a name, and it bothers me that he's not named in the wiki. And whoever is listening to this episode and worked on Man vs. Beast, and I know you're out there, I need you to edit the wiki.
Why would you ever assume that 44 dwarves could beat the elephant?
Yeah,
everything else makes
Trojan
sense.
horse scenario?
Did they have like a Volkswagen they were driving?
It says here in parentheses, it was a Trojan horse scenario. So yeah, it turns out.
If anything, I would place the little people at a massive disadvantage in this.
Were they all? Why are there 44 of them? What difference does that make? Were they all operating a giant mechanical elephant, and like 3 of them were in the legs, and like 4 of them they had a series of levers and pulleys that they were working on?
It says a group of 44 dwarfs lost a race against an Asian elephant.
Why would they win?
Well,
Why would you even think they would win?
This explains a lot, but it says in parentheses, the 44 dwarfs were formed like Voltron.
They had a Mecha Godzilla situation going
so,
on.
I mean, I think that kind of explains everything.
Everything else, yeah, okay. Sumo wrestler wins a tug of war against a gorilla. All right, sure. I can see why you would think that's a challenge. Everything else, what? What
it was
the
an
hell?
orangutan.
What the hell?
It was an orangutan who was also not named, and I think this sucks. I am upset. And I need the wiki to be edited and updated.
100%.
I need this episode to be edited.
On the air is because it ended with a fatality, right? Like there was one thing where like, this guy's going to race a cheetah in the hurdle contest, and then the cheetah just ripped his face off.
It was a zebra, you fool. Someone did race a zebra. That was Sean Crawford, world-class sprinter. 100-meter race against a giraffe, and he won. But he lost to the zebra, which is surprising. Zebras are kind of tubby. Anyway, thanks for having me on the show. The show that I chose that my dad truly, genuinely, actually grew up with and loves is the show The Big Valley. And to explain why I chose that show, I have a vivid memory, or maybe a series of vivid memories of my dad having the time of his life watching Big Valley episodes on our very small kitchen TV. And every time he's having a great time, and every time he puts on Big Valley, my mom simply won't have it. Can't be in the room with it. It's clear that she has endured many hours, and I do mean hours, because Big Valley turns out That's prestige TV in 1965.
They're so long.
Hour-long episodes. They go on forever. So my mom absolutely could not be in the room while Big Valley was on. Can't share that interest with my dad. But my dad loves Big Valley. And in spite of that dynamic and my mom having that big reaction and my dad having so much fun watching the show, I have never, not once, sat with my dad to watch the show. And in truth, Marty, Papa, I'm feeling a little guilty about that. And I thought, what a terrific opportunity to correct my errors, my arrogance. I think I probably turned him down at least once. Instead of watching Big Valley, I probably watched Man vs. Beast.
Mm-hmm.
So, is your dad going to listen to this episode?
1,000%. And I will say,
okay.
I just want to say personally to you, my father, everything I said in the beginning was a joke. I didn't mean any of it. I don't think you've ever seen or heard of the Osbournes. And I pulled that out of my hat. It wasn't that funny, so I did choose Man vs. Beast.
Switch. You flipped that on us.
Yeah.
You flipped that on us. As I have said many times to you, Adam, sometimes it's hard to tell when you're doing a bit. You're so deadpan. Sometimes it's hard to tell when you're doing a bit or when you're telling me something actually. And it makes it hard to be your friend.
I am known as the funny Joker, is what they refer to me as.
You could
kind of a funny chaos.
I feel like you could deliver the news that my family was dead and just maintain the exact same tone throughout the whole thing.
Hey, Dan, bad news. Your family entered into a competition against an orangutan. It was a tug of war competition, which, by the way, is dangerous. Yeah. Don't look it up. Don't try to authenticate this claim. Don't look it up. It's dangerous. Anyway, both of your parents are dead.
Were ripped off simultaneously with one big tug.
Yeah, they were helping 44 dwarfs form Voltron, and it didn't work out for, strangely, only your parents. All 44 dwarfs, just fine. And it's probably something to do with the fact that they were protected by a mech suit.
Yes.
Okay, so
what is this show about?
Your dad loves this show.
You tell us, Adam.
Your mom hates this show.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you what the Big Valley is about. The Big Valley is about a rich, wealthy ranching family in Stockton in the 1800s, 1844 or 1884 to 1888. It's about these 3 or 4 brothers, depending on how you look at things. Their names are Jared. Jared and Nick are the main characters. There's one lawman brother. He wears a suit and
That's
he's
Jared.
A lawyer.
Reasonable man.
He's the reasonable, straightforward one who wants things for law. And then there's Nick, and Nick is the rootin', tootin', shootin' cowboy guy.
Real hothead.
Yeah, and they're joined by a third man, Heath, played by $6 Million man Lee Majors.
Yeah, Lee Majors. That's right. Yeah.
And Heath might be their late father's bastard son. Mm-hmm. That's what the first episode is about.
That's right.
They're introduced to Heath, who comes to work for the ranch and then reveals, I might be your bastard son. And they also have a sister who, as far as I can tell, is there to be hot.
Hold on. Let's just say Audra is the sister, and she is hot. And Audra kicks Heath's butt. Sees Heath crouching by their father's tombstone, Thomas Barkley, R.I.P., and really just whips the shit out of him. And I was surprised by her vigor beating a man she had not met. I thought they were going to have a twist where it was like, oh, you, and they're tussling around and having fun being flirty, and it wasn't that. She really truly was just whooping them. Yeah.
And this family is led by their matriarch, Barbara Stanwyck, who we've talked about before on this show, as Victoria Barkley.
Mm-hmm.
So Barbara Stanwyck, the last time we saw her, she was also tending over a group of young men in the Charlie's Angels episode, Tony's Boys.
That's right, Adam.
Oh, wait,
can
we get a show called Tony's Boys?
Oh,
no, you can't.
Oh.
You can't. We've gone over the myriad reasons why you can't. This was the previous episode. So we did 2 episodes. We watched the first episode that ever existed, and then we literally, Adam and I rolled the dice on this one. We went to
Tell him why. Tell the audience
yeah,
why.
We went to like the list of worst episodes of The Big Valley, which is just according to IMDb ratings, so it's not like particularly wise. But Adam got out a D20, a die, and he rolled it, and he said, whatever this lands on, we're going to do that episode. And so I sat next to him and we rolled it, and it got like a 7. He goes, okay, let's look at the list of number 7. And the list of number 7 was, all women are lying whores.
Okay.
And it centered around like a false rape accusation.
Yes.
And we said, roll the dice again.
Yeah.
And so we did. And we got season 3, episode 26, which is called The Challenge. And we'll get to that in a second. But let's go ahead and talk about season 1, episode 1, the premiere of The Big Valley, which is called, what is it, Palms of Gold or something like that?
With open palms or something?
Palms of Glory. I was close. Which
Palms of Glory. That's
I have
right, yeah.
no idea what the hell that means, but it's
You know what's funny? I thought it was supposed to be Psalms of Glory.
Sure.
But it's not that.
That would have made sense.
Anyway.
Palms of Glory originally aired September 15th, 1965, written by Christopher Knopf, directed by Willem Graham. And here's your one-sentence summary from Wikipedia.
Mhm.
As the railroad brings in gunmen to force the ranchers and farmers off of their land, the Barkley family leads the fight against the railroad, while a mysterious and angry young man arrives, claiming to be the son of the late Tom Barkley. This could have been a 2-sentence summary, Wikipedia editor. We're getting real up on these Wikipedia editors in this episode.
They need to get their shit together.
But
Well,
yeah,
it's a 60-minute show, so they need to fill time.
So there it is. There's your 2 plots. There's, we're talking about land rights forever. And then also a guy shows up and he's pissed off and he's mad. You're this rich family and he's your bastard relative.
Yes. Yes.
Let's talk about this first episode, Palms of Glory. I gotta say, the way that this episode opens rules.
Yes, it does rule. Yeah, I'm so glad that you said that.
This episode's very uneven. It's very up and down how interested in it I am. But this intro kicks ass.
Yeah. So I mean, without divulging full details,
No, we'll divulge.
I'll just say, my summary of my experience of watching both episodes. I wasn't sure what to expect. I expected, I suppose, that I would be bored from the show. I just expected that to be the case. I mostly was not bored, but the opening scene of the pilot, the opening scene of the first episode, where both men, who at this point we do not know the names of, enter opposite sides of a narrow bridge, have a conversation about their respective ponies and how their horses cannot back up. They're great horses, but they can't back up. And then they were going to have a shootout, and while reaching for their pistols, the bridge collapsed. I didn't see that coming, gents.
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming. The bridge does collapse.
You could hear the bridge creaking through the entire scene.
That's correct. Yeah. And I wondered, is this just how it went in the 60s, where you take the footage you can get and maybe it just happens to be creaky? That's really loud, creaky, but neither character acknowledges the creaking, which is why it caught me off guard that it does collapse in a wide shot, and both of the horses and their fellas plunge into a river, and then they swim to their respective sides. It was nutty, and I didn't know what to do at that point.
There was no editing trickery or like special effects wizardry. They put 2 horses on a bridge and 2 guys on those horses, and then they pulled a board away that caused that bridge to collapse into a river.
They sure did.
2 horses fell into a river with 2 guys on them, and
Yeah.
I am not confident in the safety procedures that were taken. It looks like that could have gone pretty bad, because those horses were not happy about that development.
I mean, that became Lee Majors' thing, right? Like, Lee Majors was definitely like a stunt
Falling
guy.
off of bridges while wearing or riding on a horse.
Yeah,
that was his calling card.
Every
You're gonna love this
episode,
guy.
They had to work it in that he falls into a bridge on a horse.
So we got 300 episodes in which Steve Austin is on a horse on a bridge. That's interesting stuff.
Funny thing, they spent $7 million on the horse.
Oh, whoa! Now that's a man versus beast I would like to see.
No. Lee Majors was a stunt guy. Like he would go and he'd do the Tom Cruise thing of putting himself in dangerous situations for no reason.
Except back then they didn't really have 747; they just had horses.
They had 747s.
Nope, just
in the
horses.
60s. Okay,
I'm standing by that. You wanted to do a stunt back then, you had to do something related to a horse.
Yeah,
just
especially
so
midair. If you wanted to be in a plane, it had to be a horse.
Had to be a horse.
Don't know how that works, but it had to be.
Again, several horses Voltron together. That's how you made a plane back then.
Again, from the Tony's Boys. Again, from the Tony's Boys episode, we've learned that one horse and a rope can beat the shit out of a plane. I know how that man versus beast ends.
I really want to see that Tony's Boys. So yeah, that's the beginning of the episode.
That's the beginning. That's how we're introduced to this show. And I'm at this point, and the Big Valley like theme plays, and I don't remember how it goes, so I'm just gonna do the Magnificent Seven theme. Bum 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 bum, and I'm like, I'm so on board right now. Like I'm very on board. And then the next scene is like a very long discussion of land rights and legal battle on a train, and I'm like, I am not on board right now. And then it's like, we're gonna do a train versus a horse, and I'm like, I'm on board right now. And then more talking about land rights, and
the land rights discussion is so boring just because it is so simple, but these dipshits have to explain it to each other in detail, where it's like, so the train company is going to use legal bullshit to steal a bunch of farmers' land. Can they do that? Legally, yes. But how? And then they just explain law and land to each other. But then at the end, somebody's like, oh, hell yeah! And then everybody rushes to the window like schoolboys to see a guy try to race a train on a horse.
I did like that because I liked seeing Jared and the other fella adding their wagers over time and saying, I bet you $100 he's going to beat this train. No, I'll bet you $150. And you have to imagine that the person who was betting against the horse being able to cross the train was betting money on everyone being showered in the blood of a cowboy and a horse. And that's grim when you think about it. They were excitedly standing where they would have been the first to be hit with the big horse heart and the parts of the man. And he was saying, I'm going to collect me a payday, while wiping the gore from his face. And I was just thinking, what a strange outcome you're hoping for, sir.
I'll bet you $100 we're about to see a horse get absolutely powdered by a train.
My God, Jared, I can't wait to taste the blood of this horse and man.
It's going to taste like your money, Jared. It's going to taste like your money.
That blood is going to be not quite as red as the blood we've shed fighting for our land. The Barkleys deserve this plot of land. It's a very dense conversation about things that aren't compelling. And then a man races a horse, and I feel like that's kind of the summary of the whole show, right? There are non-compelling stakes, but also a man races a horse. And in both episodes we watched, there is a protracted fight scene amongst a lot of not much. And I feel like that's the energy the show is packing.
This is a question I have. Are the Barkleys at risk of losing their land? It kind of seems like the Barkleys are fine. It's just other people around them are going to lose their land. Because it kind of seems like the Barkleys are doing fucking great.
They seem to be doing well.
Barkleys are flush with cash. And it made me kind of sit there and go, I don't give a shit if you lose your land or not, man. But it's like all the people around them are losing shit.
Barkleys are kind of like the Batman of the Big Valley.
Wow.
And so this is how our characters are introduced, right? Heath is the guy.
Heath is not on the train yet.
Heath is not on the train yet. We don't meet
Heath. I think he was the guy racing the train, right?
Right. Heath races the train. So Heath is introduced to Nick, where they have a dick measuring contest on the bridge that doesn't work out for any of them. Yeah. Heath is introduced to Jared when Jared sees him racing a train that Jared is on, and Heath is introduced to Audra when Audra kicks the shit out of him.
Yeah.
And I like that Heath shows up and he's like, man, I've had such a hard time getting here. I fell into a goddamn river. Then I had to ride it. Like, he's not like, woo, I rode in front of a train today. He was like, I had to ride in front of a train. Like, he's talking about merging onto the highway. He's like, I had to fucking I had to ride
like there was an accident on 76. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is cowboy time, Dan. So racing a train is basically putting a cover on your TPS report. This is just tough stuff for a cowboy like him. Or maybe not tough stuff. I can't tell. But yeah, he does have an interesting disposition. I found him sweet and affectionate and curious, and also a weird guy. I couldn't get a beat on him by the end of the first episode, and I liked him a lot in the next episode we watched, which, by the way, was season 3, episode 26.
So yeah, the
That's
very
a lot.
last episode. Also
Yeah.
the last episode of season 3.
Goodness.
So he eventually makes his way to the ranch. We eventually make our way to the ranch, and I have to point this out. Nick reunites with Jared, and they go back to the ranch together. But on the way there, look, guys, I know that this is our thing, right? I know that stuff from the '60s doesn't necessarily age well.
No. Just don't say it though.
Oh, I'm gonna have to say it because this dude, I know that stuff doesn't really age well. But he walks onto the train, sees like a Chinese railroad worker, and goes something like, "Ming, you ugly Oriental." And I go,
Mandarin.
Jesus Christ, you ugly Mandarin. And I go, Jesus.
Yours was worse.
Yeah.
And I go, Jesus. But then here's the thing. Nick does this like 2 or 3 more times. He has like 3 scenes in a row where he walks into an area, sees a friendly minority, insults them to their face. He's like, he does this in this scene. The next scene, he's like, "Juan, you ugly Mexican!" And then he sees their major domo, who is a former slave, and you can tell he's going, "Benson, you ugly," and you can tell that like maybe he got the N, like maybe he like his mouth was forming it, and someone was like, "Nope, can't do that one. No."
It's his. Did I do that?
It's so weird because it comes in rapid succession.
It sucks. The bottom line is it sucks. And I know this is kind of the thing that the two of you navigate time and time again. But watching these shows and seeing these things so casually entertaining, that sucks. And it bums me out a lot. The characterization, I am sure, is we are seeing that Nick is the rough,
the
scruff,
rowdy one. He's
the vulgar guy, the rowdy, reckless one. And sure, job done, I guess, but I'm sure everybody feels the same way as Nick, whether or not they say it out loud, which
it's so weird because there's no other reason for that the Chinese character or the Mexican character to be in the scene. Like they add nothing. The Chinese worker doesn't even have a line, so they're basically just there for that to happen. It's so weird and so like off-putting, and I just it sucks. It sucks a lot, especially because like I'm sitting there like I want to like these guys and I want to like this show, but man, ooh, that hurts. That one hurts.
Well, Victoria never said one foul word.
Yeah,
and we protect her. So
I do have to say that character. Silas is the name of the Barkley's major domo, their butler who works in several episodes. This is according to the Wikipedia. In several episodes, his character showed the trauma of slavery, life for blacks after the Civil War, and meaning in his own work for the family. So that character's whole deal is, man, slavery was bad. It's really good that I'm not a slave anymore. Instead, I'm just your servant and your butler. This is so much better. And I've got a feeling that that's not handled well. I'm not going to touch those episodes.
The actor's name is Napoleon Whiting, possibly Whiting, and I don't know if either of you have seen the movie Giant, but I've seen the movie Giant, and he's in that as well.
With
Rock Hudson, James Dean,
James Dean. Okay.
Yeah.
I anticipate at least one scene of him going like, "Listen, you guys can't beat yourself up about this. You weren't there. Let yourself off the hook."
So there it is. We got that unpleasantry out of the way. We had to address it, but man, it's so weird how it happens one right after the other. It's so bizarre.
It's bad.
It's not even sprinkled. But honestly, and after that though, for the most part, not much, not that bad.
Bearing in mind, of course, that we did need to re-roll the dice because there were many
That's
episodes that looked pretty rough.
Pretty
So,
suspect.
I want to give a lot of credit to Big Valley because I enjoyed watching it, but I bet if we had watched some of these other episodes, like the episode titled "The Emperor of Rice," I don't know if we would be espousing their courtesy.
Yeah.
Well,
so
here we are.
So we got that out of the way. The rest of the episode it's basically set up, right? I don't even really think we need to run scene by scene for this. He shows up. He starts working at the ranch for like 10 minutes, and the others are immediately suspicious, particularly Nick. They have a big fight in the like bunkhouse.
In the barn?
Yeah, in the barn. They have a big fight about it.
They have a big fight that goes all over the property.
Yeah. It's a real they live style fight.
I was gonna say, yeah.
They're just trading single punches for like 12 minutes.
It's a pretty good fight for a TV fight.
Yeah, for a TV, I mean, they are flipping backwards over stuff. They're crashing through things. It really looked like they tussled. And, I'm not saying that it was well choreographed, but not a lot of cuts. They're just swinging, and that's pretty interesting to watch.
It's the kind of TV fight I like where both guys mostly just use the same arm and take turns punching each other. Where it's just left hook, left hook, left hook, left hook.
I'll say this: between this fight and the shootout that happens later, that Adam talked about a little bit. One thing I like about the action on the Big Valley is it's very raw. It's not polished. The big shootout that they have really looks like what I would imagine an actual West shootout to look like. Because it's just like a bunch of guys and horses just kind of shuffling around trying not to get shot. Nothing's fancy. No one's blowing anybody's head off. Like, there's no cool things happening. It's just chaos. And everyone's just kind of looking around wildly, just shooting. There. And
it's like a gunpowder
like
hootenanny.
A Gunpowder Hootenanny is a band that I would love to listen to. What was the name of their hit song?
Their hit song was
Cracker by the Creek.
I was gonna say Cracker Barrel. Jack Daniels at the Cracker Barrel.
Yeah, it's so much better.
Jack Daniels at the Cracker Barrel.
Yeah. I remember Jack Daniels at the Cracker Barrel by that band.
Gunpowder Hootenanny. No, dude, Gunpowder Hootenanny is probably like one of those punk folk bands like Devil Makes Three that is really interesting the first time, and then you're like, all right, I'm sick of this shtick.
Like the Black Angels. I like the Black Angels for 3 minutes, and then after that, it's like, okay, is this it?
I've seen The Devil Makes 3 in concert 3 times.
Well, you should see The Devil Makes 4. Go one more time. That gunfight I do love, and it includes my most favorite trope in any Western, which is man falling off of roof. You cannot have a gunfight in the Wild West if you don't have a guy tumble off the roof. Mm-hmm. I don't know how he got up there. I don't know what he thought the plan was. He wasn't taking cover at any point in time, but he really did tumble off the roof, didn't he?
There's always like every guy that does this where he's like, I'm going to climb up on this balcony with a pistol, and this is going to go great for me. I see no potential issues.
Question: does guy falling out of barn count?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
It has to be like a high location.
Yeah. Just got to be a high location, because they hired the actor to get that shot, and he got it, and I love that.
He did his job. Yeah.
I want to rank these really fast because the best version of it is guy goes through railing after being shot.
1000%.
Second one, guy goes over railing after being shot.
Okay, yeah. Not as good.
Sure.
Then it's guy falls off roof. And then guy falls out of barn. I think that's
where
all
do we
of them,
place?
Right?
Where do we place? Guy falls from height and lands on top of a car, because that's one too. I'll tell you what. Really would have surprised me.
Car ranks higher than dumpster, right?
Yes.
Guy falls into a dumpster.
Car
ranks
higher.
higher than dumpster, but not as high as onto a moving bus or train.
What's
those are higher.
But you survive if you do that.
You live if you do that, sure.
To go back to Wild West, what about guy falls off and lands in water barrel?
Oh, classic.
Oh,
classic,
That's a
boots,
good one.
boots in the sky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
definitely.
going down a floor from second floor to first floor, window out the window. Where do we count? Classic, right? That's gotta be number one for me.
Is this shot guy goes through a window or guy gets thrown out? Guy gets defenstrated.
I think guy gets thrown out a window. Also, yeah, someone used their vocabulary.
This is one of
word
those
for the
rare
day.
times when guy gets thrown is better than guy gets shot. Because if he is properly defenestrated and tossed through the window, you can't beat that.
No,
If he is tossed through a window from a height and lands on an Acura, now that's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking for.
guy falls off balcony through guardrail, goes through window, lands in water barrel rolls onto a moving Acura.
And what I've learned is if you go through all of those steps, it takes you to a new stage in Mortal Kombat.
Do you guys know about the time that Charles Barkley threw a guy out a window?
No, what?
Hold on. There's a fourth Barkley brother?
There's a fourth Barkley brother. Charles Barkley. Goddamn,
Whoa.
Good one, yeah. Sir Charles Barkley. No, this is a true story. Charles Barkley threw a guy out a club window in, I think, Atlanta.
Yeah.
He was in the club, and there was this dude who was, by the way, I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to be on Charles' side in this one.
Okay.
There was a dude at the club who was like harassing and groping women, and the security crew wasn't doing anything about it. So Charles quite literally took matters into his own hands and grabs the guy by the neck and throws him out the window. And at his arraignment hearing, and I swear this is true, the judge asks Sir Charles if he has any regrets, and Sir Charles, in his Charles Barkley voice, goes, "I regret that we were on the first floor."
I'm glad that he said it in his Charles Barkley voice and not his Mickey Mouse impression.
Yeah.
I wait until we find out what Charles Barkley's going to do to Nick when he learns what Nick said to Silas, for Christ's sakes. I would love to see this.
Fuck him up.
I'd love to see this. I would love to see him throw Nick from the second floor through a window, crash through what were the other things we said? Through a fence.
Water barrel, Acura, moving
Four
truck,
windows,
dumpster.
stained glass window.
Oh, stained glass window's a
Stained
big
glass
one.
window
Big
is
one.
always good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ooh, skylight window.
Oh,
yeah.
So
Skylight
guy falls
window.
into a skylight or like a
Oh,
greenhouse
yeah.
or something. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, always good.
Yeah.
Oh, the
Always
more
great.
glass, the better. And there's a car with a moonroof parked in the greenhouse, so he goes shatters through the roof.
Are
of
we
the
are we
moonroof.
John wooing it? Is there a bunch of doves? Like, how many birds are disturbed by this?
Yeah, the doves were inside of the car, and they were all killed.
They were
And-
on their way to the wedding.
Love it
And-
when a guy gets shot in the hip, falls off a roof, and then goes into a Rube Goldberg machine.
That ends
And
in
it
like
makes-
an aviator.
Yeah. And at the very end, it makes breakfast for Pee Wee Herman, the aristocrat.
Every morning, Pee Wee Herman wakes up, shoots a cowboy off a roof.
It's Cowboy Curtis.
Oh,
He shoots
no.
Cowboy Curtis.
That does make sense, and I want to agree with you because that makes sense. But I simply will not have it.
Yeah.
You can't shoot Cowboy.
Don't make
Curtis.
people imagine Cowboy Curtis getting shot
No,
like
no,
in the
no.
good, the bad, and the ugly.
Surely no.
What the fuck are we doing here?
Okay.
Can we
so-
just skip to the next
Yeah,
episode?
we can. Honestly, I think we can because we've covered all the highlights here, right? This episode is just set up. Now you know
Yeah.
the deal. You know who the Barclays are. You know Heath's whole deal. You know. Oh wait, hang on. There's one scene I gotta talk about, and that is the scene where Audra tries to have sex with her brother.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I wasn't sure if you were talking about how like not flirty their relationship was, and I was like, did I grossly misinterpret that scene?
There is a scene where Audra rides her way into town, and like some drunk guys go to grope
They went
her
to
and,
assault her.
They go to assault her, and then Heath Barkley ? Pulls a Charles Barkley ! And kicks their ass and they go back to his like hotel room where he's staying, and she comes onto him real hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Like-
and I didn't like how the lawman appeared and said to Audra, I'm not going to hear your side of the story. You are going to tell your family, and then I will hear it from your family. I didn't care for that.
No. Yeah.
That was not good. Didn't like that.
Wish he'd gotten shot.
I wish he was thrown through a second floor window, smashed through a fence, and it was the electric fence that holds the T-Rex and the T-Rex from Jurassic Park, and the fence was not on, so he's not electrocuted. And guys, stop me! I fell asleep at the end of the episode. When I was watching the episode, it was quite late at night, and this is very much the preamble for the entire series. It is a little confusing because I know the pilot needs to sell people on the concept, and I guess they didn't need to sell much. They just, they had.
Now I know
this show has an
I know
impressive
who the Barclays
budget,
are.
so like the money was just gonna do what the money do. And while I was watching the episode, I fell asleep.
All right, so I'll run this through this. Okay, Audra does try to seduce Heath to be like, well, to test him basically. She's like, well, if we're brother and sister, would we do this? And it's got a very like Riley Reid, like, oh, we can't do this, so you're my stepfather kind of vibe to it.
Is Riley Reid one of the Barclays?
Yes. I thought it was a weird casting choice.
Can you imagine a Pornhub video and the title is "My bastard brother just appeared in town and he was desecrating our father's grave"?
That is
plus cum shot.
Yeah. My bastard brother has come to town disguised as a ranch hand, and I'm trapped in the dryer.
I kicked the shit out of my brother before I got to know who he was.
The thing I like, so the entire thrust of the episode is them going like all the farmers are like, we need to use violence to protect our land, and the Barclays being like, you can't do that.
No, one Barkley, Jared Barkley.
Jared, he's
like, you can't do that.
It's against the law and it won't go well. And then the end is just all the farmers going like, we resisted with violence and it was awesome. That ruled and worked so good.
Yeah. Eventually they do resist with violence. Even Jared goes along with it. Jared gets shot.
Yeah.
And by the way, there is another Barkley brother whose name is Eugene. There's like a third Barkley brother. He's like he's like the young kid, and he's the intellectual, and he's like a poet, and he really thinks about stuff. And 8 episodes into the series, they said Eugene joined the army and never talked about him again.
Whoa!
He's gone.
Oh, wow! That brother would have been the prototype for the. Have you seen the movie Power of the Dog? He would have been that.
Yeah, he would have been the power. I know what point you're making there.
It's a great film.
Yeah. So they do this. So that guy, you don't need to worry about him. He basically just doesn't do. I forgot he existed in this episode. And you've also him. Yeah, and so they cut him out because you've already got too many guys. And we haven't really talked about Victoria, and I think we'll talk about Victoria more in this next episode. So let's talk about this next episode, which is mostly Victoria.
Yeah.
In fact, Audra isn't in this episode at all, is she?
No, not at all.
Okay, so we'll forget about Audra. So now it's season 3.
She also joined the army.
Yeah, it's weird.
They just say that she's in New York for this episode. So here.
Oh yeah, that's right. They do.
Here we go. Season 3, episode 26. The Challenge airs March 18th, 1968. Written by Virgil W. Vogel, great name. Directed by Directed by Virgil Vogel.
Yeah, it was written by a woman.
Written by Margaret Arman.
That's right.
And here is your one-sentence summary from Wikipedia. A senator comes to Stockton to campaign for re-election, but finds himself the target of a smear campaign that pulls Victoria in as well. All right, so let's do consensus on this episode. It's pretty good.
Yeah. I loved it.
This episode,
I loved it.
First episode, I was up and down on. First episode, I was like, I don't know. But by the end, I was like, I get the premise of this, and I'm interested in what this, so I'll stick around for a little bit. This episode is like they're running pretty well on this. It's still too much talking. It still should not be an hour long.
Are you fellas looking at the IMDb by chance?
I can.
I am.
Do you want to drop a bomb about a secret cast member in this episode?
For this exact episode? No, go for it.
Yeah. Regis Philbin.
Regis Philbin.
Yeah, he plays a nameless reporter.
That, by the way, is one of the things that the Big Valley, I guess, was known for. And one of the things in the Wikipedia is they've got an entire section of guest stars, and it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 columns long. And I recognize some of these names from the Andy Griffith Show, like R.G. Armstrong. I recognize, and Ron Howard, but also other names on here like Mako appears in here. Richard Dreyfuss is on here. Bruce Dern, John Carradine, of course. Leslie Nielsen.
Wow.
Regis Philbin is on this list. Carl Swenson is on here. Adam West is on this list.
Charles Barkley.
Charles Barkley appears. So pretty much, and Yaphet Kotto is on this list. Diane Ladd, Mark
Plo
Lando,
Koon from the Jedi from the Star Wars.
Lopan Superman, every single Power Ranger appears on here.
Man. As one guy.
Voltron. They Voltroned.
Okay, that's fair. Anyway, this episode was great. I thought it was a great episode, and even when I thought it was going one way, actually the entire time I thought it was going one way, and the episode managed to surprise me. So I can honestly say I did not know what was going to happen at any point in time, and I was bought in the entire time, and the ending for me was a bit of a thinker. I don't know if this was on purpose or not, but it felt like it was truly making a statement about the character of both sides when it comes to a political campaign.
Sure. But before we go into that, I'm going to say one more name from this list. Robert Loggia. Robert Loggia appears, which means the second time that Robert Loggia and Barbara Stanwyck appeared on a show together that we covered. So again, back to Tony's Boys.
This is
Robert Loggia
weird.
is also in Tony's Boys. You got to go watch Tony's Boys.
You got to watch Tony's Boys.
In the third column, it says Takeru Kobayashi, professional eater.
He came on to do an eating contest against a bear.
It
was a very weird B plot of one of the episodes.
Against Senator Bannard. That's weird. I guess that's how they elected people back then.
So this episode, a senator comes to town. He's already a senator, and is he a U.S. senator or like California state senator? It doesn't really matter, but I think
California state.
He's like a California state senator, and he's campaigning, and he comes to Stockton, and it's revealed that he and Victoria, the matriarch of the show, they're flirty. They
used to have a thing.
They used to have a thing before she got married. And they're still like kind of into each other. It's pretty clear to literally everybody within a 5-mile radius. Like, these two want a bone.
They sit down to dinner, and the senator, who's in a heated re-election race, rapidly reveals himself to be a fucking psychopath. Not, in a way, like he's just kind of like, well, I'm just a humble country psychopath. I have trouble controlling my violent impulses.
If this was made today, you would not know like what a psychopath the senator is until like 45 minutes in. He would just be very charming, very personable. He'd be like, and then like the last 45 minutes, he'd just be like, oh man, that's terrible. Snap someone's neck.
Yeah.
Like that's how it would go today. In this episode, he's just like, hello, here's my deal. People like me, but also I'm fucking nuts.
He has a bit of Gary Busey energy where he is, and this is interesting to me and something that I did enjoy, which is he seems to be aware of his psychopathy and yet still indulges in it. Mm-hmm. I think during his dinner with Victoria, he claims that he has gotten his anger in check, and moments after that, maybe a full minute, kicks the shit out of a drunk man. And I found it comedic that both of these things, that the line of dialogue where he's like, hey, look, I got my anger in check. And then he really unleashes on a guy, those things happening back to back. I was convinced the episode was building him up to be untrustworthy, uncouth. Obviously this was not a reference then, but to my eyes, Trumpian,
Yeah.
indulgent and angry and flying off the handle, where the other candidate, Judge Daggett, seemed to be the intellectual guy, even though he had a lot of strange stances as well.
Are we supposed to, in the show's view, am I supposed to like the senator?
This is my question as well.
Yeah, I
It's
don't
unclear.
know. It feels like it's pretty on the senator's side, and the senator has like a really weird way of framing his, because all of his faults he comes out and he tells you, like, but it's always like, well, you know me, I have my one fault, I have anger issues, and it's like, you know me, I have my one fault, I'm very impulsive and make rash decisions, or you know me, I have my one fault, I'm very stubborn, or you know me, I like to commit manslaughter a lot.
That's right. Yeah.
He
does. He very much does threaten to murder and then invite to murder his opposing candidate. And it seems to me like the actions, the dialogue, the blocking of this episode is leading me to think that I don't like Bannard, the Senator Bannard.
Right.
However, Victoria likes him and the Barkleys like him. And the Barkleys frequently reference that they are not in the same party with Judge Daggett, which leads me to think, well, but we like the Barkleys, so we have to be with the Barkleys.
It's the same question that we have with Andy Griffith all the time, which is, whose side am I supposed to be on with this show? And Adam makes a good point, like, well, the protagonists are on this side, so I guess the show wants me to be on their side. Maybe.
Yeah.
I think I have the definitive answer to this. And I think it's all just one scene where they show a prolonged scene of him being nice to a horse. And I'm pretty sure that this is this show's go-to whenever they, like, want to give a thumbs up to a guy, where they're just like, oh, hey there, Shadow. Oh, you're such a big, strong horse. Here, let me give you an apple. And it's like, thumbs up, this guy's great.
Yeah, that's a good point, Dan. Although when he's speaking sweetly to his horse, he then hops on his horse and he's like, let's go murder Judge Daggett.
Yes.
And so that's confusing too, because he is being a real sweetie to his pony. But then they ride together like the wind to kill a man.
Premeditated slaughter.
All right, hang on. Let's give them reference here. So there's so much plot to this episode. This episode This episode actually earned the hour.
Would you mind? Can I swing at this?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so Senator Bannard arrives in town. He is warmly received by the Barkleys, but he's getting the cold shoulder from his opposing candidate, Judge Daggett, who seems to be kind of a skinny, kind of untrustworthy intellectual type who cares a lot about money, and you could read into that if you want to. Senator Bannard used to have a relationship with Victoria. This is a Victoria vehicle. This entire episode seems to be about Victoria, her past, how awesome she looks in leather. And
we're gonna get back to that leather jacket in a second. I got some thoughts on that jacket.
Leather jacket.
And we see that Bannard is talking about his past, how things are good. He's happily married. He's doing well. He's figured out how to be a successful politician. And yet he still falls into the trap of being indulgent in his habits, his bad habits, including when a drunk man wanders through a restaurant and accidentally spills something or other in Victoria's lap. And Bannard's response is to punch him really hard several times. And Victoria calms him down. And then he says, oh, gosh, my bad. I'm so sorry. I have one flaw, and it's that I do extreme violence. And then during the nighttime, Victoria gets a knock on the door. I guess they live in a hotel. What's this? Is this Schitt's Creek?
She's staying in the hotel. Like, she came into town to see him, and then she's like,
okay,
well, I might as well crash at the hotel.
Yeah, she gets a rap at the door, and some nameless man says, here's a note. And we don't know the contents of the note, but it leads her to go to Senator Bannard's room. And we learn that the note was forged, and it was to set up this situation where both of them were in the same hotel room at 3 a.m. And surprise, they get TMZ'd, and someone takes a daguerreotype from a ladder in a window, and then he is defenestrated through the window through 14 panes of glass, and he falls through the second floor moonroof of an Acura. And it's clear that there is a plot against Bannard. And what is obvious at this point is it must be Judge Daggett,
Pause.
who clearly dislikes Banner.
Pause.
So,
Time
yeah,
out.
let's
Time out.
digest part A.
We've gotten through, like, now we're at the first commercial break.
That's right.
Can I just say how fucking funny it is for someone to be surprise attacked with a photograph in the 1800s? Like,
I think it
surprise!
rocks.
Poof! And like,
Yeah.
and like dust appears, and like everyone's like, ah, god damn it, I can't see for
It's
a
one of
second."
those cameras where he's like, surprise, and he's supposed to catch them in the act, but because of the camera, they have to stay there for 14 minutes
Yeah.
while the camera develops.
It's like someone was surprised and then painted him.
It's so weird because they have a very long conversation where Victoria comes to the room and is like, hey, I got your note, is everything okay? And Daggett's like, I didn't write you a note, and that should have been the end of the conversation.
Bannard says I didn't write it.
Bannard says I didn't write a note, and that should have been the end of the conversation, but they have to sit there and talk for a couple of minutes like, oh, that's weird. Oh, but we should probably get out for your safety. Well, I'm going to be fine. And they have to do that because somewhere in the door frame, a guy is like, God damn, this easel won't get, this leg won't come out of the hatch. Hold on. Okay, let me focus this in. And okay, I'm ready. Surprise.
He's climbing. He's climbing a ladder outside of the window with all of his gear. And if he fucks this up, he's going to fall down that ladder and smash all of his gear, which I'm sure costs a lot of money. That's his whole livelihood. And this whole plan falls to shit. And all that scene would just be Victoria consoling Senator Bannard, and from out of the room, fuck. and that would have been the whole thing. And that's not what happened, but they do get a photo taken of them touching.
He also he has to wait for like the only moment where they make physical contact, which
That's
is
right.
what, like, he's just kind of like helping her up. Like, she's like, all right, help me out of bed, and he like grabs her arm, and then he's like, haha, you're touching, haha, click.
And then Bannard receives the photo with beautiful handwriting.
Yeah.
And it says, withdraw from the race.
Yeah. So they send him a threat. It's a threatening letter, and it's like, guess what? We're gonna reveal this thing.
The handwritten note says, "Do you like me?" And then it says Y or N. Yeah, that was cute. So that's where we are. I guess that's about the halfway point. Of the show.
And so that's the mark. It's the setup, right? And so Victoria has to wonder how to do this now. So Victoria and Banning and the boys, Heath and Jared and Nick.
Tony's boys.
Yeah.
Tony's boys.
Yeah. The boys, Heath and Jared and Nick, they got to sit there and be like, what are we going to do? Jared doesn't do much in this episode except wear a lot of eyeliner, I noticed.
Yeah.
he's very clearly wearing eyeliner, right?
Is his whole role in the show to just be like, listen, let's sit and wait and see how this whole thing sorts out? Is he just like the breaks of the show of like, everybody's got to calm down?
I was thinking about these characters, the Barkley brothers, in archetypes from comic books.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, Jared felt like a very neutral observer, someone who just wanted to let the law work in the way that it needs to. He's not particularly heroic, but he is very smart. I was trying to think of who he's is.
Foggy Nelson?
Maybe he's a Foggy Nelson
Or like,
type.
or Anawatu? Like...
I was about to say,
Watcher.
Adam, is there any sort of comic book character that passively watches events and has some sort of doctrine against interference?
Oh, the Man Thing. That's right. So Jared Barkley is the macabre Man Thing, and he believes in law and order. Yeah.
So at this point...
But the reason why I brought this up is Nick really flies off the handle, and he feels a little more rowdy, like a Hawkeye type, or maybe an Iron Man, a Tony Stark. Whereas Heath, to me, felt very Captain America. I like the dynamic. I really enjoy the dynamic between Heath and Nick.
They're
when
buds
Nick says
now.
he's going to get on his horse and dig up the photos in Judge Daggett's office. And I think Nick's line was, why don't you just stay here? And Heath says, what makes you think I was going to go with you? And Nick's responds, because you don't trust me, that's why. And then he's like, dang it, you got me. Let's ride. And I just love that. I thought that was great.
Did anyone else half expect Nick to get machine gunned to death at a toll booth? like in The Godfather. Was he was giving me real like that
Look
energy.
what you did to my boy.
They massacred my boy energy.
Well, a part of the reason why it felt like that is that, like, let's get back to that fucking bitchin' leather jacket that Barbara Stanwyck's wearing. She looks cool as fuck in it, but also
She does.
she looks very much like she went to a Western store in 1964.
Yes.
She's wearing the same jacket as Olivia Newton-John at the end of Grease. Like,
Yeah.
everybody in here just looks like they went to a country Western store. They all look like they came from Cracker Barrel. They came from a Cracker Barrel hootenanny. The costume design on this is... I'm being real nitpicky about the production here, but the costume design is very, like... It's annoying. It takes me out of it, because I sit there and go, you are very clearly wearing 1960s gear. Like, this is ridiculous. I had to sit there and for a second. Sarah walked in and asked me, what year is this? Like, when does this take place?
If a 60-year-old woman went outside in that leather cowboy suit in Texas, she would be mummified instantly. That would be an immediate fatality.
That is very funny, but I'm going to call ageism. Victoria is timeless, and I think she was born wearing that outfit, quite frankly.
Also,
and I'm loving all of her activities. And this episode was very interesting because I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, and I thought what was going to be the case is this was my expectation. I thought we would learn that Bannard was actually behind all of this and was basically trying to frame Daggett by making it look like Daggett was playing dirty or something. I just was convinced that that was the case. And ultimately we learned that both of these guys are real D-holes. And that's that.
Listen, I'm going to do a defense of Daggett here.
Sure.
Okay, Daggett is behind the whole scheme, which is kind of, it's the one weakness of the whole thing where, Daggett, they're like,
it's on the nose.
Yeah, it's very on the nose, but whatever. So Daggett commissioned these illicit photographs to discredit his opponent because the senator's probably going to win. The senator's a fucking lunatic, as he's proven over the course of this episode. And also, the senator is pushing for an irrigation system that he maintains is not very well thought out and will go over budget and bankrupt the state, which, like, I would have to read the text of the bill, but based off of this guy's behavior, I am going to guess that he is not the best number cruncher. So I would be a little dodgy about his accounting. So Daggett does what he has to do, which is play sketchy politics to get this guy out of the race.
You have to take him out of the race because he's too much of a risk for this wonderful town.
He's a fucking lunatic who has managed to cowboy charm his way into a Senate seat where undoubtedly he's going in and being like just going into the state Senate and be like, we should go to war with France. Let's do it. They gave us a dirty look. Let's fuck them up.
They looked at us croissant ways.
Remember. just let's all appreciate that the day this candidate arrived in town, the very same day, he kicked the shit out of a drunk. I shouldn't say that. Out of a man struggling.
Yeah, a man who is a little intoxicated. Like, not even like a
drunk, very apologetic man who was like he was grabbing the lady's arm inappropriately, but he was like, I am so sorry, let me make it up to you, I'm so sorry. And the senator was like, you piece of shit, and then clocked him.
He was doing that great. He really went Hellraiser on him, which was weird. He flayed his skin off, and I was like, whoa, that's a lot.
I want to get to something about this. I'm going to skip ahead to the part where
no, we're trying to do this in sequence slowly.
There's a lot of talking. There's so much talking. There's a lot of talking.
There's a lot of dialogue.
I'm going to skip ahead to the part where the action kind of kicks back in, and that is where Banning goes and confronts Daggett. Bannard goes and confronts Daggett and basically says, look, motherfucker, I know that you were behind this. I don't know how I'm going to prove it, but I don't care. I'm going to kill you now. Like, he just goes and straight up says, like, hey, man, I'm going to kill you. That's not a figure of speech. I'm going to kill you. We're going to have
you
a
sick asshole, Judge Daggett. You want compromising photos of me? Then subscribe to my OnlyFans like everybody else.
Like, he comes in and it says, like, we're going to have a duel. And Daggett's like, nah, dude, come on. I'm not going to fucking duel you. And he's like, all right, you can duel me, or I can drag your ass out in the street and murder you. Yeah. And Daggett's like, okay. And I'm at home going, I don't think this man should be a senator.
Yeah, and that's just it.
I feel like this guy shouldn't be a senator.
Daggett is repeatedly saying you want to solve everything with violence. And I was assuming the show was condemning that notion. I'm assuming that they're using Daggett as a vehicle to say we need to be more civilized than this. And I was astounded to learn that Daggett was playing dirty, which I guess, neither here nor there. It's politics. You've got to do what you've got to do. But the show is clearly condemning Daggett for his behavior. And Daggett is ultimately thrown from a carriage and killed. And then Bannard says, well, we don't need to let the authorities get into this, again, being egregious. And everything works out in favor for Bannard and the Barkleys. And so to me, I don't know if this was intentional or not, but it left me with a feeling of this show was very high intellect suddenly, where it said you don't have favorites when it comes to the two-party system. It's both bad, my friend, and it really just comes down to who you have any social ties to.
It's also very Succession. Like, it feels like a precursor to something like Succession, where it's just like, hey, just because they're the protagonist, don't make them the good guys.
Or Game of Thrones, right? This gray morality,
which is something interesting. You skipped a couple of steps there, Adam. So I'm gonna walk us through this, and Dan, I feel like you got something here, but I'm gonna walk us through what happens there. So Daggett and Bannard do like meet up at the edge of town or out in the woods, but they don't have a duel. Daggett's just like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm gone. You're never getting these pictures from me. And they have a fight, on top of a carriage. Daggett is thrown from the carriage. Victoria is there. Victoria witnesses the whole thing. I think she
looking fine.
Yeah, looking fine as hell in that jacket. And she witnesses it. I think she came out to try to stop it. But she witnesses it, and she sees that Daggett, after being thrown from the carriage, is dead. And for some reason, Banning is like, oh man, it's really bad that this guy that I was going to murder is dead. I'm very confused at his response here. Like, what was he gonna do? Because his plan was to kill this guy. But when the guy is actually dead, he's like, oh no!
And he's like, okay, so the way it's solved is basically, if we can prove that Daggett was blackmailing you,
it's justified. Then
they'll believe her testimony that this was accidental, and everything's fine.
Yeah.
And to which I would say, even under the best of circumstances, this was premeditated assault followed by involuntary manslaughter. So
and let's remember here, Jared is a lawyer. Like they say it very often. Jared is a lawyer. And
right, they go back and report all of these events to Jared, and his head twists around 360 degrees like The Exorcist.
And you would think at this point you would call the fucking lawyer that is your son, but no, Jared doesn't do dick. Jared doesn't show up until the last scene. Like,
well, at this point, Jared's just like, you motherfuckers aren't gonna listen to me anyway.
That's true.
So I'm just gonna go get drunk. Like, fuck all you guys. Have fun solving it with cowboy know-how. I'll be over here knowing the fucking law.
So I mean, let's break down the case here, which is, okay. So you met your opponent out in the woods alone at the edge of town, like by yourself. Yeah. Why were you there in the first place? Okay, now why was he in the carriage? Okay, now why was he standing up in the carriage? Okay, now what? Like,
I'm gonna have it. Let me interject. This is going to sound like a joke, but cowboy law, right? Like cowboy rules. And this is a cowboy show. We do cowboy things. So I feel like it's just not. It doesn't carry the weight or the stakes that it would in any other context.
I feel like the whole thing. I feel like the whole reason for this show, the whole reason you have Jared as a character, is
Right.
because it's the man who shot Liberty Valance, right? It's the death of the Old West. It's those ways are
Right.
going away, and now there's a more civilized time. The West is becoming tame. So that's where the conflict arises between Nick and Jared, his brothers, and that's like the main theme of this. So you have to figure there is some semblance of law in here.
Sure.
But then in this episode, the dying Old West rises from the grave in a Camaro and is like, "I'll never die! I win! Cowboy justice forever! Woo!"
Right, and then we have one loose thread, and Victoria rides to a different town to beat up a photographer.
Just
And
beat the
honestly,
shit out of a
I mean,
photographer.
power to her. This man, took a photograph of her without her consent, and she looks fine, and it's great.
And
I love that.
I want to be clear here. She beats the shit out of this guy.
She really does.
She scratches his face up to where he's bleeding all the way down. She throws photo developer fluid in his face, in his eyes. Does she?
In her defense, he is trying to strangle her to death with a length of rope the entire
That's right.
time.
That
She's
is
not just doing a beatdown.
It is a gnarly fight. Like,
Yeah.
she basically comes in and is like, "Hey, you confess to the conspiracy that you have been in on," and he goes, "No," and he tries to run away, and then they have a very long fight. And
Do you guys ever watch professional wrestling? Did you ever watch pro
sure.
wrestling?
I watched. Yeah,
She went in.
unfortunately
She
not
went in
wrestling
there and
person.
climbed a turnbuckle and set up and did a swanton bomb.
Yeah.
She just demolished
She
the guy.
she takes the pads off and throws them into the audience. She did
she
she
does
looked
the
right at the
people's
camera and
elbow.
did the people's eyebrow.
She gave him a stunner. She gave him the pedigree. She did the Rikishi move. She did all of the
thought
finishers
the suck
from
it
every.
motion was a little unnecessary.
Yeah, she did. She did suck it. If you ain't down with that, she said, "My name is the R to the O to the A to the D to the O to the double G, the road dog Jesse James." She identified herself as a different person. It was confusing, but it was pure bloodlust. And I liked watching her beat that guy down. And I also liked the stylization of the fight when they were in the developing
That looks cool
room.
as shit.
Yeah.
That looks
Yeah,
so cool.
it's very cool.
At one point in time, they break from the Technicolor world. They go into the developing room, so there's like a red cellophane film over everything, which made the fight look even more brutal.
Yeah.
This
episode fucking
it was
rocks.
like the fight from Kill Bill, where it goes through different cinematic styles, but it's just one old lady beating the shit out of a tubby guy.
Yeah. This episode rocks, and I have to say it's strange to me that I chose this randomly from a list of the worst purported episodes of Big Valley. Because if this is one of the worst, bring it on. I want to see more Big Valley.
And to be clear, like the worst here just means it has one of the lower IMDb ratings, and even then, it's
okay. That's the metric.
Yeah, that's the metric that particular site uses that we were on.
Okay.
I'm going to guess that the reason it's ranked the lowest is probably why we like it, because I feel like the people that are ranking these things are like, more land discussions.
I want to see the deeds.
You're not talking about railroads enough.
Okay.
Back to the railroads.
The most popular episode of Big Valley is just a ZBA meeting.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the list of the worst episodes of Big Valley, and tell me you don't want to see season 3, episode 14, titled "Journey into Violence."
I
Hell
100% want to
yes.
watch Journey into Violence.
Hell yes.
Especially because I know that this show fucking means it.
Yeah.
This show means
Tell me
it.
you don't want to watch season 3, episode 24, "Devil's Masquerade," or season 2, episode 9, or I'm sorry, season 4, episode 16, "The 25 Graves of Midas."
Fuck, that's good.
Come
Go
on.
to
Pez hell.
Fuck. All right. So this is a good opportunity for us to turn this. Adam, your dad loves this show. Your mom hates this show. On a scale of Mr. Teterus to Mrs. Teterus, where are you falling on this?
Oh, it's a Mr. Teterus out of 10, Buster. I found myself really enjoying my time. I was excited that my fiance was going to come home and walk in on me watching a cowboy drama from the 60s. I've always dreamt of being my dad, and it's happening in reality. And I think I really do have a regret that I didn't access this show with my dad earlier, because maybe I just wasn't mature enough or wouldn't appreciate it enough, but I spent a lot of time during the past couple of years in quarantine rewatching every single Godzilla movie from 1954 to present, the last live action film coming out in 2016. I spent a lot of time in the 60s and 70s specifically watching my favorite era of Godzilla movies, Heisei. And I think it has turned my palate into such a way that I can appreciate things from a certain era. Now, of course, those are Japanese tokusatsu films, so it's totally different. But I don't know. Maybe I wasn't ready for a Big Valley before, but I'm ready now.
Adam's
I'm here, baby.
Weeaboo Minute. Adam's Weeaboo Minute.
I want to be a Barkley. I want to be a bastard son. I want Thomas Barkley to be my dad.
All right.
I'm gonna cut Child Adam some slack, because this is very much a show for people who are over 30 years of age.
That's right.
Like, if you showed this to me as a child, it would be like showing a cross to a vampire.
It is also a middle finger to like millennials, and because this is not a be on your phone show. This is a sit and fucking watch and pay attention to what's going on show. So Adam, why do you think your dad likes this so much, and why do you think your mom doesn't like it?
My dad loves Westerns. My dad really loves John Wayne. And it seems obvious to me that John Wayne's whole thing, the whole oeuvre, the man, the concept, the mood, this is the show of that. This is the serialized version of good cowboys versus bad cowboys. And to me, this is more morally complex than I expected it to be. I think, my dad was born during a time when cowboys were just a really big concept in media, and it's just obvious, like, why was I into Power Rangers? I don't know, I got sat in front of it and it just rocks, man. So I think it's probably the same reasons, but perhaps my father has nostalgia tied to it, and I think it's totally understandable by counterpoint why my mom can't deal, because it's a lot of conversations about land laws. And if you're not looking for the fun, he's talking to his horse sweetly, and I'm here for that, then you're getting nothing from this, except for maybe fashion from Victoria. So it's a guy's drama, and I don't know what else there is to say about it, but it's clearly not made for mi madre. But I get it. I totally understand where my dad is into it.
It's also funny to me, like, this is when I talked to my dad about TV shows, and I was like, what were you into? What did you watch as a kid? And like, why'd you like
the
it?
Osbournes?
My dad actually did like the Osbournes, but because also my dad's like an old metalhead.
Okay.
But I asked my dad about it, and he said, what did I watch as a kid? Whatever was fucking on. We didn't have choices. The shows you watched were what was there. So that was part of that conversation. Thanks, Dad. Real helpful. No, he was actually really good about it.
Hey, Dad, what did you like to watch? Marty, Riley Reid.
Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ.
Marty, have you heard of this Pornhub thing? I gotta tell you, it's a real hoot.
Have you ever seen the porn genre man desecrates tombstone, has sex with sister? Plus cum shot.
Marty, it's just like, Marty, need to talk to you urgently. Give me a call.
So
funny.
All right, other question. Who's your favorite Barkley bro?
Oh, I'm a Heath stan, personally. See, for me, I really like Nick, but I find Nick simple. His reckless whims are simple, and I think I could get tired of him being a dummy. And I also found that Jared was too removed often
He's a bit of a
from the
stick
situation.
In the bud.
Now, in the first episode that we watched, Palms of Glory, I don't know enough about Heath to understand. And I said I couldn't get a beat on him. And in the second episode, he appeared just infrequently enough for me to like the dynamic, but not get tired. So I feel like the mystique stays. And I want to know more about Heath. I like the Lee Majors is
one
doing his
thing I
thing.
noted is that
I'm
they
into it.
never in the credits, even into the third season, are like Richard Long as Jared Barkley, Peter Breck as Nick Barkley, Lee Majors as Heath. They very specifically do not give him the Barkley name. Like,
Well, that's his last name is Cliff.
yes,
Fuck
his name is
you.
Heath Cliff.
Yeah.
He terrorizes the neighborhood, and sometimes he wears a helmet that says ham on it, and Marty's Comics Corner. So Heathcliff has turned into a Dadaist nightmare. That is also one of the
He's
strangest
constantly
and
going toe to toe with what is it, Garbage
most
Ape?
garbage ape. Yes,
Yeah.
Heathcliff is so strange, and I love it. I love it.
Sorry, Dan.
I was gonna do a Wuthering Heights joke, but it's so far back. It's done. Continue with the
I looked
comics
for it.
corner.
I looked for the best episodes of Big Valley, and season 3, episode 11 is named Explosion 2.
Yes.
That shit is a Metallica song.
Inferring that there is an explosion 1 at least.
Sorry, season 3, episode 8, The Disappearance, Metallica song. Season 3, episode 22, Rimfire, Metallica
Megadeth.
song. This shit rocks. I like the show. I'm sorry, season 1, episode 12, Night of the Wolf. Don't mind if I do.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm gonna watch more Big Valley. That's gonna be my thing now. I'm gonna see if I can find episodes in a better quality, because right now we're just watching them on
Yeah,
YouTube. and
pretty
it sucks.
rough.
I wanted to say something that I discovered is that in 2010 there was a plan to do a cinematic reboot of the Big Valley,
Whoa.
starring Susan Sarandon as Victoria. But
Okay.
that film, yeah, I can see it now, and I think now she's got a very similar like monarch of a dynasty role. Actually,
Yeah.
wait, no, isn't like her new TV show literally called Monarch, something like that?
I can't keep track of
or
all those
Matriarch
fucking
is one.
shows.
How?
There's like Nashville, Monarch, Matriarch, Kingdom.
But like the film was shelved after the director that was attached was indicted in a $4.7 million tax fraud case, and was facing up to 32 years in prison. So that's the last time that was.
Oh man.
Uh,
Oops. I would take it. I want it. I would want a kind of, I don't know what I would want from it. Maybe a 21 Jump Street revival.
you know what? I think
Big
you
Valley.
got to leave this one alone, because I think one of the things that makes it appealing, and also one of the things that makes it rough to watch, is the very 60s-ness of it. Right?
Yeah.
The like. It's rough. It is surprisingly violent. It is.
You can't do this with a modern understanding of cowboys. Like you
Sure.
have to be in that sort of a willful ignorance of
Pastiche.
the 60s.
You have to buy into the mythology,
Mm-hmm.
and this would a modern remake would try probably successfully to deconstruct the mythology. But if we're being honest, and
it would be so overdone though. It would just be like constantly
and if we're being honest,
special episodes.
I've watched a lot of westerns, right? And westerns have been deconstructing themselves since about 1958. Like we've torn it apart from pretty much from what I thought was basically every angle until Power of the Dog, which was just like, hey man, we haven't talked about how gay this is enough yet. We haven't talked about the gayness of all this yet.
Yeah.
At that point. Yeah.
Well, I feel like we're at a consensus, but did both of you boys enjoy watching Big Valley?
I think I talked my way into liking the Big Valley over this point.
I texted Marty. So we had an abandoned one of these we were going to do because Marty's sister selfishly got COVID.
God damn her.
Oh, yeah, that's rude.
Yeah, but my sister.
And as a result, I had to watch 2 episodes of Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman, which spoilers for if we do that, bored the living piss out of me.
Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman, we
and
can
then-
successfully say sucks.
I texted Marty during the first episode was like, I cannot believe you made me watch another fucking cowboy show that's just people grumbling about land rights. Why are you doing this? And then Marty was like, listen, we'll probably get something out of it. And then I texted the second one, was like, oh, wait, no, we're good.
Yeah. Sorry, this shit slaps.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That first one is all set up, and maybe we should have skipped it entirely, but...
Yeah.
I wouldn't have known who Heath was.
That's true. I'm
he's
glad,
the best
I'm
one,
glad I understand this
objectively.
deal. No,
Yeah.
I'm on board.
Oh,
I like Big Valley. I think we both agree that like this shit slaps.
Yeah.
To circle back to the original question, though, Heath is objectively the best one, and if he's not your favorite, you're a fool.
Yeah, and the only other answer could be Victoria, as far as I'm concerned.
It's like if you ask what your favorite Power Ranger is and you don't say green, you're an idiot.
It's absolutely Tommy.
It has to be green. Yeah.
I'm a Billy. But the thing is you had to choose by your favorite color, and often you didn't really get to choose. You just had to pick the one that was your favorite color. And everybody liked Tommy. There's too much of a crowd around Tommy. You know what I mean? So
You know
I had
what?
to go
You
with
know
my
what?
guy Billy.
Crowd around Tommy for good reason.
Hang on a second. Hang on a second. Everybody loves Tommy, but just as I get older and I find myself understanding Cyclops a lot more.
Sure.
I also, as I get older, find myself understanding Jason a lot more.
Jason,
the Red Ranger,
yeah.
the Cyclops of the crew, right?
Sure.
Tommy, he got that Wolverine energy. Everybody loves Tommy. Jason is doing what he fucking has to do. Like,
Sure. Did you guys think it was weird that Senator Bannard said that he wanted to build a reservoir in Stockton so he could play a magic dagger flute and draw a Zord from that said reservoir? And I just thought it was weird that the only thing that anybody critiqued was Daggett said it would cost too much money. Like we looked at it right in the face and said it would just be too expensive.
If elected, I will bring about Ivan Ooze's return. I am making that promise to you here now.
I thought it was.
There were no children in Stockton, from what I could tell, so Ooze wouldn't really stand a chance.
Oh yeah, you would just be just a purple bitch.
I thought it was very weird when the ghost of Thomas Barkley appeared in a giant tube and insisted that he needed 4 cowboy brothers with attitude. I thought that was weird. I thought it was weird that he specified he needed them with attitude. But Adam Teterus, thank you for being on the show. God damn it. Adam, thanks for showing up on the show again. You got anything you want to plug? You want to tell everybody where to find your socials and what to do with your things?
Yes, thank you very much for having me on the show. It really is a delight to be on this show. I love the show. I love that you guys are committed to this pursuit and are expanding beyond Mayberry. Congratulations to the both of you.
It's a weird thing to congratulate on us, but I'll take it.
Well, come on, please. You move out of Mayberry. I think that's great. I think that is.
We are moving back eventually.
It's basically a Rumspringa.
Okay, we can put it like that. I have a podcast. It's called Man Thing Minute. It's a comedy podcast in which I invite funny folks such as yourselves to join me in reading one single issue of Marvel's macabre Man-Thing, who I'm so excited is now included in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He appeared as a co-star in Werewolf by Night, which was delightful, by the way. And my goal was to make that character relevant and have fun and connect that character's world to other people's worlds. And I feel like now I don't need to do that because the MCU done did it, right? But the show's funny, and I enjoy it a lot. And would you guys be up for being on the show again?
Yeah, always. 100%. Surely, 100%.
That'd be great. Okay, terrific. So we'll do that. You can find Man Thing Minute on anchor.fm/Man Thing Minute, or you can follow me on Twitter where I post about Man Thing Minute. Adam Teterus, at Adam Teterus. Teterus.
Adam, I know what you mean about not really sure what to do now because the MCU brought it in. I know what you mean. I was really surprised when Barney Fife was revealed to be the main villain of Black Adam in the third act. It was a shocker.
Whoa, that really changes the axis of power in the DC universe.
Hierarchy of power has shifted in the DC universe. And Barney Fife is at the top.
CinemaSins lit that reveal up. They found a lot of plot holes with it.
I'd love to see that, actually. Barney Fife and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Sure, why not?
I mean, The Rock is absolutely the kind of guy that would appear in like a Scooby-Doo like reboot. The Rock has absolutely solved mysteries with Scooby-Doo. So has Don Knotts. It's happened.
As long as Scooby-Doo was shilling Terramana tequila, then sure. Absolutely.
As always, you can get it.
Scooby is a drunk. I'm sick that people haven't said it before, but he's a drunk. All
Well,
right?
you don't
a real
have to worry
barfly.
about that because he's not in the cartoons anymore.
Yeah. Do you think that it's a coincidence that he's not there? He's got a problem.
He's in rehab and no one's talking about it. They're just moving on with the show.
And it's only Terramana, which is fucked up. He mixes it with Zoa, the fastest growing energy drink, which is also owned by Dwayne Johnson. And it's just fucked up. The Scooby only hits the Zoa Terramana combo.
The number of cartoon characters that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has corrupted and driven to alcoholism is something that we are not talking about.
I didn't think it was as bad as when he got Fred Flintstone to join the XFL. I thought that was worse.
Whoa!
Much.
Does Fred Flintstone wear the bowling helmet, that like furry bone helmet?
What's
hat?
bad is that every time he gets a concussion from playing football, he thinks he's a different guy.
And then they trade him to another team.
Yes. Then, like,
They don't
he
have to
gets
spend
hit
any
really
money.
bad, and they thinks he's an art thief. He gets hits again. He thinks he's a race car driver.
I mean,
I would watch this.
motherfucker, how do you think that the Dolphins are going to get a first-round pick for Tua? That's their whole plan. That's their whole plan. They're going to just make him think he's a different guy. And you're like, guess what? Your name is Gardner Minshew. You are the second string quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. Goodbye.
I like the idea that Fred Flintstone was never a Neanderthal at all. He was just suffering from CTE.
As always.
Keep this show running. Keep the show running.
It's gonna take him like 12 hours to edit this because there's so much crosstalk.
They call me the Forrest Gump of Joker.
You guys excited for that Indian Forrest Gump remake?
What?
All right, now we need to take this off the pod.
Right. There is an Indian Bollywood remake of Forrest Gump that is it is in India cinemas right now. It stars the guy from 3 Idiots, which is a great movie.
Well, now I'm excited.
I am so psyched to see that. It looks bizarre as hell. The idea that you are taking Forrest Gump, a movie that like very clearly is about America in a very specific time period, and making it not America and not that time period, looks great. Looks fantastic. All right.
I'm into it.
The Bollywood version of Bruce Almighty was absolutely awesome because his whole thing was he was like, I'm God now. You know what, God? You didn't fight nearly enough crime. And
is that a real thing?
Basically becomes, yeah. I worked in a movie theater when it came out, and he uses his god powers to do martial arts and stop bank robberies.
That actually sounds really sick. And now, I don't know if we can put in requests, but I would like to see a Bollywood Don't Mess with the Zohan. So if we could get that happening.
As always, you can get at us on the internet. We are on Twitter at Break Mayberry. Our Facebook fan group is Breaking Mayberry Fans. Come join us and hang out. If you want to support us with your money dollars and get access to the many, many minutes of this episode that I cut out, you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Breaking Mayberry. Remember, $8 a month is our only tier, and it gets you everything. Gets you access to bonus episodes, making us watch things, hanging out in our Discord, other live streams, etc., etc. $8 a month, come hang out with us. Or give us a rating and review. Helps us out in those algorithms, help us get into other people's earbuds. Those are always nice and fun to have. Or, you know what? Send us an email. The breakingmayberry@gmail.com account only ever gets spam. I'd like to see an email. It'd be nice. All right. That is it for us. Thank you for joining us. Music you heard before. Well, actually, I don't think I'm going to do. Well, the music you heard might have been Max Ludwig, who is on Twitch at Sleep Talkie. I am Marty Schneider. Thank you, Adam Teterus, for joining us. That's Dan Ludwig. Do I have a sign off for this one? Your mother and I are very disappointed in you.
Sure. Yeah, that's what that was.